Welcome back. If you're new, my name is Pippa. This is Izzy. You may have seen her in previous vlogs, although probably not as much as she used to be because she's had the audacity to go and get a proper job now. This will hopefully be coming just after I've done another video about chronic illness and friendship, but I thought since she's here, we've been out, we've had a lovely breakfast, why not get my non-disabled best friend to answer questions about chronic illness and friendship as well. So I asked for questions on Instagram specifically for Izzy, and you sent in some really good ones, so I am quite excited about this. We're going to wing it and it's going to be fine.
You shouldn't have said that. You should have just said, I've planned this meticulously. Everything's going to go smooth and yeah, but alas, no.
I've been thinking about doing something like this for a while and we've talked about doing this video before. And I remember one of the things, you said a quote to me and I thought that would be a really nice and profound quote to start this video with when we were talking about whether this would work. And she said to me, Pippa, I don't think of you as just my disabled friend. I think of you as Pippa, who has the weird thing about pinto beans. So I feel like I need to say Izzy is a good person, but I give you full artistic license to be completely honest because we're talking about our situation. I don't represent every disabled person. She does not represent every disabled person's plus one. She is a good one, so I give you complete license to answer these questions honestly.
Okay.
Do you accept the challenge?
I accept the challenge.
Okay, well the first one's really easy anyway. So the first one is, how did you two meet?
Prison.
Oh yeah, good times. I've always liked to jump to.
No, we met in high school.
Yeah.
In year 10 drama class.
Yeah, we went to the same high school and we didn't know the other one existed for however many years.
4 years, I think.
That's
3 or 4 years.
Really weird.
Yeah.
And then we got stuck together in the same GCSE drama class. We got put in the same little group.
And that was it, really, wasn't it?
We've been stuck together ever since.
We really have.
Did you meet before disability or after?
Technically before.
Mm-hmm.
But when we met, you just started like with your symptoms a bit.
Yeah.
So we kind of met when you were beginning your sort of seemingly endless journey to get like a diagnosis and figure out what was happening to you.
I would say just before.
Just before.
You got a sense of who I was just before it all started going a bit downhill.
Yeah. I can't remember how long though.
Well, it took, for the purpose of this, it took me 4 years to get my diagnosis. 4-ish years. So we met when we were sort of 14, 15.
Yeah.
I got my diagnosis when I was 19. And when I was 14, 15 and doing GCSEs was just when I was starting to go to the doctors more and more and being like, okay, something's not right, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
But I never had a proper diagnosis at that time.
Yeah. And you didn't really know like what was happening with yourself either. So I think that was, I remember it being a weird time, but then also like, you know, because we were kids, we didn't really care.
No.
It sounds awful, but like,
it wasn't like the centre of our lives, was it?
No, not at all.
I wouldn't have identified as chronically ill or disabled or anything then. I just thought I was a bit tired all the time. Do you ever feel frustrated when plans need to be changed? You can answer honestly.
You know what? Earlier on, yes. I think it's quite rare now that plans get changed.
Yeah.
At the time I found it frustrating, I was still understanding what your illness was.
Yes.
So because I was still understanding what it was, I don't think I had the empathy that I have now.
Yeah.
That, okay, yeah, I understand why you need to cancel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not just like being flaky, which I think is something a lot of people worry about.
Yeah. But once I like learned more about like, you know, once you told me more about like what you were going through and I learned more about chronic illness, it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, but it was frustrating, but like not like this is the end of the world. It was like a mild annoyance.
But I can see it because we always make nice plans, don't we? So I feel like if it happened now, I'd be almost more gutted than I used to be because we make such good. I like properly look forward to our plans and
But we're planners though. Yeah. And I think that's the difference. I think in a friendship where you're not planners, it might be a different. Yeah. You know, like, because we live quite far apart now, so we have to.
They don't know that.
Oh yeah, we live
at least a train wide. Yes. Train wide.
We are very separate, so like we pre-plan everything. Whereas I think if we lived more like close to each other and we had more spontaneous plans, then it might be different.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I never thought of it like that. Yeah, because we don't have much room for spontaneity anyway, so I don't feel like we're missing out because spontaneity wouldn't be a thing since chronic illness, for me personally. Does talking about illness ever get too much, and how do you deal with it?
Not really. You don't talk about it that much.
No.
The only reason that the only time I feel like we talk about your illness is when I ask you.
Which is kind of ironic because my job is literally talking about my illness.
Yeah.
It's all I talk about online, but in person I actually don't talk about it that much.
We don't talk about it almost at all.
No, which is really weird. Unless I'm having a particularly weird time.
Yeah.
Like with my hands, yeah.
Yeah, if there's something like weird and new going on with Pippa, I'm genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Because you're a bit of a medical mystery sometimes,
I am. It's baffling.
Who knows what happens, but it's unlikely, never say never, that I will experience what you're going through.
Touch wood.
Touch all the woods. It's not something potentially that I'll ever experience, so it's like understanding kind of like, I want to know how it is for you. Ages and ages ago, I asked you like what your pain actually like feels like.
That really sticks in my head.
And you were like, no one's ever asked me that before. And it was like, because what does it feel like?
Yeah.
You spend so much time with this person, and then there's this thing in this person's life that you just almost don't know anything about, but it dictates so much of like what you do, what we do, everything. So it's like, I want to know about it.
Okay, well that's good to know.
I do work in healthcare though,
yes.
So that probably is a disclaimer that needs to go in
but
there.
I feel like it would be really comforting for other people to know that she works in healthcare and she understands and knows the phrase energy limiting conditions, which just makes me so incredibly happy. Don't be afraid to ask your person, because when you asked me, I remember just saying something like off the cuff, like my legs are really hurting today, and you were like, what does it actually feel like? And I was like, not a single person in 12 years has ever asked me that before, so I actually had to think about it.
I feel like pain is quite a hard thing to describe.
It is.
Sometimes.
I can't remember how I described it to you. No.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, my pain is probably different now than what it was then. I should say, I feel like if you follow me online, you will probably know this already, but I used to be a lot more ill than I am now. So it's probably something to be conscious of, and I'm trying to be conscious of that in my answers as well. Do you ever get tired of being asked to do extra things for a disabled friend? You can use the example that I absolutely know you're going to use.
So there's this one really specific time when we went on a mini break to Scarborough. Scarbados. This thing booked an Airbnb at the top of a hill and took her manual wheelchair. I was exhausted.
That was hard work.
It was so steep. I did tell you.
Oh, you did tell me. Yes, you did.
It was hard work. And Pippa is not like heavy.
I'm not.
But pushing human up very steep, and it was quite a few very steep hills, so that was tiring.
And they were long hills. It wasn't just like a little uphill. They were big hills.
But in terms of like, it's like little things.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, that you just don't really think about doing twice.
No.
Really. Like when I was staying here, you know, over when I was at uni, you know.
She used to kind of like half live here when she was at uni.
Yeah. Like, you know, just doing like bits like changing the bed. It takes like a couple of minutes, and it saves you like a day of.
Like if I did that, I would have had to have like a few hours rest afterwards. Yes. So like stuff like that is really, really helpful. So
I really don't mind doing anything like that, or like emptying I don't really empty the dishwasher.
Only because I have the problem with noise. I know you would do that if I let you do it, but I'm really noise sensitive, so I have to put my headphones on and do it myself with the dishwasher. Yeah. It's one of my things. When I saw this question, I was thinking of something that I hadn't thought about for a while. And like I said, I used to be a lot more unwell than I am now. And pre-COVID, we used to go on theatre trips to London. Like, we've always done that. Yeah. The last few times we went, I think I pretty much did everything for myself within reason. Sometimes you would go and get food and like do bits and bobs. But like in terms of like me, I did everything myself. But when we first started doing that, I used to be really ill, and can you remember?
I used to do like your makeup for you and your hair. See, I don't mind that because
it was great.
Like doing hair and makeup, but I didn't mind.
No, it was like we got the train there, and then as soon as we got to the hotel, I would have to lay down and rest until we had to go out again. So it was great that you would just do my makeup while I was lying down. It's the great. I could just shut my eyes and when I opened them again, I had a full face on. It was great.
Getting food ready and doing the dishes and stuff when we go on holiday.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Dishes.
Yeah.
But you'd be doing the dishes anyway, so it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything extra for you.
Yeah. Do you know, in some ways it might even be that I ask you to do, well, I don't ask you, but you kind of do more stuff like that now because we do more stuff. We go away more. We have more plans than we used to.
That's true, actually. As well, because we have been friends for so long.
Yes.
That it's second nature.
Yeah, it is.
We don't really think about these things anymore. We've just fallen into a routine kind of when we go away.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you're in a new friendship or something like that, maybe like have that conversation of like, am I, this is gonna take a lot out of me, like doing this household chore. Would you mind doing that?
Yeah.
I think is an acceptable thing to say.
And it's probably a good thing to have that conversation in advance.
Yes.
Manage expectations.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you know, that ties in really nicely to another question. I don't think it's the next one, but let me find it. Have you pushed Pippa in a wheelchair? Did she ask or did you offer? And this person says, I want to see friends but would need support with pushing and I'm worried or scared to ask them.
Oh, bless.
I know.
Yes, Pippa started using
George,
the manual wheelchair. It's not a self-propelled wheelchair, it's just a pushy.
Transit.
Transit is a better word than
or
pushy. I did the pushy.
I prefer pushy.
I prefer pushy.
It was about a year after I was properly diagnosed and it was just after my birthday. So I'm going to say when I was about 20. So like
that
8 years ago. Because I've only used my power chair, I've only been using my power chair about 4 years. So I must have been using my manual for 4 years before my power chair.
I can't believe you were using that. Really?
And it was a terrible manual chair. It still is, I've still got it.
It's
awful.
It's
not a good manual chair.
It's honestly, it's a miracle that it's still in, well, it's in a few pieces, but that all the pieces still fit together.
Sometimes I just look at it and think it's just going to like collapse into pieces. It's not good.
Yes, I have pushed Pippa in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Many times.
Can you remember? I can remember the first time, can you?
I don't think I can,
This is bonkers to me that we did this for the first time. So you took me on my second outing ever in the wheelchair and we decided to try that for the first time when we were going to London for the weekend. It was the same weekend we went to see Matilda and we went to Winter Wonderland and it was the time when someone gave me that massive teddy.
Was that the first time?
That was the first time.
Oh my god.
So the first time, and I remember, this really sticks in my head. So we got to the train station separately because we live in separate cities. We got to the train station, I was pushing the wheelchair and we said hello and you looked at me and you said, are you going to sit in it then? And that was it. But if you hadn't done that, because I was nervous, I'm pretty sure I was nervous, nothing to do with you, but I was nervous about it.
Diffuse the situation.
Literally, it was just how you would react to any other situation in life. Like, you're going to get in it then?
Go on then. Come on. But we were all right though, weren't we?
Fine. But then also, we can cut this out if you don't want me to say it, but you have fair amount of experience with disability.
No, you can leave it in. It's fine. I have a lot of experience with wheelchairs/disability. My dad has been a wheelchair user all my life, so me and my brother kind of grew up like playing in my dad's spare wheelchair, pushing each other around, playing trains. It was a great time.
This is how you tackle ableism.
Right?
Give a child a wheelchair to play with.
It's great. I've been being pushed around like all the way up till I was probably about 8.
Yeah.
And pushing wheelchairs, and I know this is not like, a proper experience, but it's just I'm so used to being around this bit of kit that it doesn't, it's just kind of part of the furniture a bit.
When you think about it, you have more lived experience of disability than I do.
Oh my god, yeah, I do. That's weird.
That's really weird.
Yeah. Let's say you've got a friend who's like never pushed anyone in a wheelchair before. It would be a good idea if that friend could get in the wheelchair, be pushed around, because I think it's really important to understand how it feels to be pushed in a wheelchair.
That's interesting, because a lot of people don't love that.
Really?
They don't love the idea of a non-disabled. I can see it from both sides.
Not like, just, I think before you actually, or after, or at some time, just to understand how it feels, because you're basically like, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. We probably have differing opinions on this.
Yeah, I think we probably do, but go on.
I think to sit in it, to actually feel like this is how it feels, to be, you're almost like relinquishing control of like your body for that.
In a transit.
Transit wheelchair. Yeah. So I think if you understand how it feels, you're more conscious of pushing people.
I get that. I can see that.
Yeah. So why do you think that's a bad idea?
It's more to do with,
it's not like for fun.
No.
Like, I just think like,
Like, there have been a lot of initiatives in the past where people have said every non-disabled person should be a wheelchair user for a day, to give you an idea of what being a disabled person is like. And the comeback from disabled people is that doing it for one day isn't going to accurately portray the lived experience. And also, people should take what disabled people are telling them at face value. But then equally, being pushed in a transit wheelchair when you have a chronic illness is such a unique sensory thing that I can see the value in that, actually.
Like, even if it's just like round the block, you know, just so like you can feel like, I can feel like everything on the ground. You can feel every bump in the road. When you turn, you can feel it lurch. You know, just to feel what that person in the wheelchair is going to be feeling. So when you push, you're more conscious of, you know, little things like curbs, you know, you're aware of the road, you know, what surface are you going on, where's the next drop curb. A bit of a tangent there.
No, but I think that's really interesting, because I don't think I wouldn't have necessarily been able to see it from that point of view. In most of the ways, you are the best person to push me in a transit wheelchair, because like you said, she gets what it's like, she knows what to avoid. She won't park me next to it, like where I'm face level with a bin or something disgusting, which is something a lot of people used to do. Did she ask, or did you offer?
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't know.
I honestly can't remember.
Well, I just told you to get in and we were off, really.
I mean, before that, did we have a conversation? Because you would have known I was getting a wheelchair.
Yeah. It must be a hard thing to ask someone to push you.
Definitely.
It's a difficult thing to ask for, but then it's not an unreasonable request. It's just a thing that needs to be done, really.
I suppose if it's a case of like using a wheelchair is going to enable you to get out more and to do more things with friends, that's almost the way to pitch it to your friends. So if they say, do you want to go out shopping on this day, and you say that sounds great, but if I do that I'm going to have to use the wheelchair, so would you mind pushing me, and maybe that's the way in.
That's a good idea.
Oh, let's have a tea break. Do you feel comfortable telling me when to rest if you can see I'm struggling?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have been friends for too long and we are brutally honest with each other.
Yes, that's why I told you to take the beret off.
I had a beret on. I thought I looked great. She thought it looked like I was trying too hard to look cool and edgy, which I was. Kind of like those boundaries have been established.
There's no filter now.
There's no filter. I think because those boundaries have been established, that like I can tell you, and I know that
I'm not going to take offence.
Yeah. Whereas I think if I'd have told you that when you were just getting ill, when you were getting used to it, I think you would have been quite upset with me.
Yeah, I think at that point, that early on, it would have been classed as unsolicited advice, even though it was said with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
You do the best thing, which is sometimes you'll come in and say, hey, I saw this really cool mobility aid.
Oh yeah.
And I don't mind that, because usually it is a very cool mobility aid, and you say
that is genuinely like helpful.
And that I like that, because you're not saying like drink green smoothies or
it's that wonder kiosks don't exist. However, lifts that attach to your car and get your power chair into the boot, they do exist. And they are handy. I think I was leaving hospital and I just saw this like little thing come out of this man's boot and pick up like their power chair and like put it in the boot. I ran over to this complete stranger, like, can I take photos of your car?
I think it's probably okay, because sometimes I think you see it before I do. Like you can just see I'm flagging.
There's like your face kind of changes a bit in a nice way, and you kind of like can see you kind of like
powering down.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, you stop talking as much. You don't make as much eye contact.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like sometimes you'll say, are you ready for a rest? And I'll think about it and think, actually, I am ready for a rest,
I wouldn't just go like, you look awful, you should rest, because that would be... I have done that before.
Literally the other day, you turned up and you're like, wow, you look like...
that was mean, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't inaccurate.
It wasn't inaccurate.
I was in a state that day. And again, it's okay if she says it. It's probably not okay if you're saying it if you're in a new friendship, or it's probably not an okay thing to say, but equally I don't care if you say it.
There are ways of saying it without being quite so mean.
Yeah.
As I do.
But that wouldn't be very on brand for us. We are quite mean to each other.
But if you're unsure, the age-old, are you alright?
Yeah.
Is always the way to go.
Is there anything you need?
Yeah. Can I do anything for you?
Yeah. Do you ever feel uncomfortable telling Pippa about any of the amazing things you get to do that an ill person cannot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I'm conscious of what I tell you sometimes, because I don't want you to, you know, but then you ask me sometimes, like when I go on holiday, like with my fella, we have quite active holidays, me and my fella. We like sort of like hiking and walking and exploring and stuff like that. But I don't want to make you think that I'm not telling you because I don't want to upset you. So it's like finding that balance of like, oh yeah, we had a lovely time. We did bits. Yeah. You know, kind of like leaving it at that and not going into too much detail. Sometimes.
And then if I want to know, I'll ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a nice balance.
Yeah. I don't hold anything back, but I don't go into detail about, oh, they did this and it was amazing. It was like the best experience ever. It's more about, you know, yeah, we did this and we went there, did this, and then I kind of just call it a day, and then I know if you want to know more, you'll ask.
And that's it, because like anybody in this boat will know, you have days where you feel a bit more resilient to hearing about the good stuff and days where you just absolutely cannot.
Yeah.
And like one of the single worst things about my experience with chronic illness 12 years in is I get really bad FOMO. It's the worst, and it's definitely not as bad as it used to be, but it doesn't go away. But it's funny because you said the example I was thinking of in my head, but there was once something you did which I thought was so awesome.
Oh really? What
was
it?
It was when you went to Slovenia the second time
with Josie.
Your fella.
Yeah, with my fella.
And you came back, and one of the first things you said to me was, you would not believe all of the accessible things we found to do. I bet you'd really like it. This is something we could do in the future.
We still haven't done that.
No, we need to.
Well, the world's been shut down for a while.
I know.
Hasn't it,
We've not been away anywhere since 2019 outside of the UK.
God, that's weird.
I know. Have to get planning.
Yeah.
But that was really lovely because I didn't ask, and it was just the fact that it was one of the first things you said.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she was thinking of me, which was really nice, and that makes it a lot better. Just stuff like that makes it a lot more palatable.
Like there's things that we can go and do,
and even if it's not a realistic hope for you, if your illness is more severe, just the fact that somebody has said that and they've kind of like shown that intention. Because I'm trying to think if there was anything when I was at my worst. I'm trying to remember what it was like then, because to be honest, I've blanked a lot of it out.
Yeah, I know.
So I would have been sort of like 2021. Yeah. 19 to 22 was my worst.
Age or year?
Oh no, age.
Age. I was thinking.
Oh no.
You were all right last year.
No. I'd say age 19 to 22 was my worst.
Right. Yeah.
But you would have still been in education then, wouldn't you?
I was in college.
Plus, I had the advantage that I know not everybody has, so I was actually at uni, so I had enough. I had stuff. It wasn't like everything was completely empty. But I do have empathy for anybody who's in that boat. A
good thing to do as well, if you're coming back from a trip or from whatever, just say like, would you like to hear about it?
Yes.
And we have I think I've said to you before, like, are you in a mental place to hear this news right now?
Yeah.
And you can say it I say it in a jokey way sometimes, but it's a serious question.
Yeah.
And then we talk about it later.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's a good tool to use sometimes. Yes.
Also, this is only very loosely related, but something else actually, if you have a person and you spend a lot of time with them, is sometimes I won't have the brain space to have a particular conversation. I can't remember where we were, but that time, like, I'd literally just woken up and you were like, what do you think is the meaning of, like, all of these things in life, this really deeply philosophical question? And I just looked at you and I was like, not now. Not yet. Yeah. Need a cup of tea first.
Communication. Sometimes I am one of those freaks that does wake up in the morning sometimes, like...
so cheerful.
Yeah, and Pippa's not.
No. I need my cup of tea and my Cheerios, and then we'll talk.
I can tell when you're not into a conversation though, because you do like...
I don't even think this is chronic illness related.
This is just you.
I will never forget when you said this to me, because I didn't realise I did this until you said it. But you were like, there's a face you pull when you don't agree with me, but you don't have the energy to have an argument. And I was like, no, I don't. That's ridiculous. And later that day, I did it, and I was like, I'm doing the face, aren't I? And I would never have known that if you hadn't picked up on it.
No, because to be fair, the face is actually quite handy, because then I know that you don't want to talk about that
It's
thing.
a marker.
Yeah.
So this is a question from somebody who we both know, who I will tell you afterwards.
Really?
Yeah. What were the most important bits of info Pippa could give you to support her in the best way? I'm trying to tell my best friend, but I don't know how to best help her to help me. That's
a good one. Telling me about her like noise sensitivity was really important.
Oh, that's a big one.
Because I'm a chaotic person.
I'm not going to disagree.
I'm a chaotic person, and I have the tendency of announcing I'm here unintentionally by I'm clumsy. I drop things. When I'm around Pippa, I am conscious to not do that.
Did I have to tell you about that for you to stop doing it? Because that sounds quite ballsy for me.
I don't think you told me. I think you told me about the noise sensitivity thing, I'm sure you've told me that the clinking china is like the worst thing. I don't think you told me in a please stop doing that kind of way, but I think you just said like, oh, that really like hurts my brain.
I wish I could remember how we had that conversation. It
was an age ago. I don't realise how loud some things are. Like, people can hear like a plug being switched on.
I'm like, I swear I'm hypersensitive to noise now, which is like the polar opposite of your situation.
Yeah, so sometimes I genuinely really don't realise that some things are loud. I try and like unplug things like in the morning, like as quiet as I can, and then like I'm sure you still hear it.
I do. Yeah. But I know you're trying, so it's fine. It's like, I know you're not. I have a bit of an issue with like sometimes, not with you, but like thinking people are doing it deliberately because I've told them not to.
Yeah.
But I know it's never like that with you. I know you're genuinely trying.
I try, but
having anybody at all in my flat is a challenge. Which I suppose other people with chronic illnesses will be dealing with friendships as well. Like sometimes having people over is the most energy friendly, but that isn't to say it isn't without challenges.
I think just like having like conversations about when you need to rest. You know, being like open with each other about what you need to function as best you can.
That's true, because I wouldn't have always done that, because I had a good few years of denial.
You did.
Which helped nobody.
You did.
Where I used to just try and like bulldoze through, and it made everything miserable for everybody.
That was awful.
That was a bad time.
Just communication, being honest, I think, was the best thing.
Yeah. Which I know can feel really scary, especially if you're new to chronic illness, but it's worth persevering with if you feel you can, because it will make things better in the long run.
I know it's really hard telling your friends this. Like, it's really hard, but like you said, in the long run, it will be so beneficial to have people around you that understand a little bit, like, what you're going through. A little bit. Not completely, but, you know. Even, like, if you start, like, the conversation quite small. You know, and just say, like, I find this one thing a bit difficult at the moment. And then, you know, talk about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just thinking, actually, I think this kind of fringes on one of the other ones. I think I used to be afraid, and I mean I still am to an extent with anybody. Like, Izzy is an anomaly. She's an anomaly. She's an exception.
I'm a jellyfish.
Oh, why?
Oh no, that's a sea anemone.
Oh. But I used to be uncomfortable telling people about my chronic illness and communicating how severely it affects my life, in case it scared people away, or they didn't know what to say, or it made them uncomfortable. So one of them said, "This is really difficult. My best friend was supportive when I was first diagnosed, but now being ghosted for a year, and I don't know if illness is the reason. Any advice?"
You don't know what that person's reason is until you ask them. Something that I consciously try and do, just like, you know, in general in my life, is not put my thoughts in someone else's head. Because I don't know what that person's thinking. And you don't know what that friend is thinking. You don't know what the reasons were. Now, getting in touch with that person and asking them why is probably the hardest thing to do.
Yes.
And it's an uncomfortable thing to do. But that, you know, that person's the only person that knows why they took the actions that they decided to.
Again, like, the optimistic part of me is thinking perhaps they're uncomfortable at the minute and they don't know how to talk about it, so in their mind the best thing they can do is to come away from it. Like, I know somebody who you also know who's experiencing this at the minute, and I will ask their advice I will ask for their consent before I leave this in, but they like have friends who they still have a good time together, but they feel awkward like asking about like their mobility aids. Like, the friend was very excited about the mobility aids, and their friends didn't really know how to react to that, because to them it was like a sad thing.
I think it's terrible that mobility aids have this like negative connotation.
Yes.
Connotation, like this negative bias. That was really weird. Negative bias surrounding mobility aids is awful, and I think it needs to change, because mobility aids facilitate so much independence to so many people. You know, people who don't have much experience with mobility aids often feel awkward asking about them because they don't want to offend people. I don't know how you feel about this. The stupidest questions are the most important.
Definitely.
As long as it's not like
inappropriate. Or from a stranger.
Yeah, unsolicited things. But, you know, it's good to get that conversation going.
Well, this is the thing, like, the only way we can change the stigma is to have the conversations, but then because of the stigma, people don't feel able to have the conversations. So it's a really, really difficult one. Yeah.
I remember on my first day of uni, we had a talk from, I think it was a wheelchair user. Someone asked the wheelchair user, so if I see you, like, in the street, and let's say like you're struggling with something, what do you want me to do? What would you find best from a stranger? And I thought that was a good question.
What was his answer?
It was her.
What was her answer?
Her answer was basically like, ask me.
Yeah.
Ask me. This is probably nothing to do with this question.
It's okay. It's still interesting.
You found this where your people will move you.
Oh, it's the worst thing in the world. Sorry, that was a bit of a dramatic.
No, I don't think that's dramatic at all.
Oh, I hate it.
People will move you or like give you unsolicited help.
Yes. And actually make things worse because they assumed rather than asked. Yeah.
The lady in using the wheelchair just said like, ask me if I want any help.
Yes.
Like you would do to someone who wasn't in a wheelchair.
Yes.
Sometimes the simplest questions are the best ones to ask.
When you have a chronic illness, your time and energy is so precious. I mean, this might be a little bit brutal, but the first thing to consider is this somebody that you still want in your life, and do you want to spend your time and energy on? Also, I'm inclined to say don't rule out if something is going on with them, if there's some like a deeper issue at play here.
But if there is something going on with them, you would think that they could just say like, having a tough time at the moment, I need some time to myself. Try not to put your thoughts in their head, because I think you'll just think yourself into a downward spiral, and you'll think that just, you know, like how your thoughts can just snowball and snowball and snowball, and you think, this person goes to me because of my illness will mean that I will never have any friends anymore because of this person.
Which, if you feel like that, you are not alone, because I had that same thought as well.
No, but if I ghosted you, you'd be like...
It definitely isn't because of my illness.
No,
it's
because
I've offended your beret or something, or insulted your fashion choices.
Why did you break off your friendship for 15 years? She offended my beret.
In which case, you are completely within your rights to ghost me. Tell you what then, how long would you, if you were in that position, someone had ghosted you, would you be the one to reach out, or would you just leave it unless they reached out to you?
Send a message, I think.
Yeah.
And just delicately say, hope you're all right.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard from you in a while, thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
Get in touch if you want to catch up or something like that.
Or ask them about, if you want to facilitate a conversation, ask them about something that's not illness related.
Yeah.
And see how that goes, because then maybe that will give you the clue as to whether it's illness related. If you just like ask about their favourite TV show or like their hobby or something, and see how that goes. This person says, I find it so hard to keep up with friends even by text, but feel so hurt when they don't reach out even though I can't respond. Thoughts on this tension? I was thinking, is there a more accessible way than text? I don't know if there is. For chronic illness.
No, I don't think there is.
Although some people do prefer to talk on the phone.
Well, talking on the phone I think takes less actual movement, and you don't have to look at anything. You can just answer. If the person calls you, answer. You can be in any position, you just talk and listen.
That's true, actually. I've called you many times while I'm like laid in the fetal position on the sofa.
Yeah, explain like, I want to maintain this, I want to keep in touch, but I find this takes a lot out of me. I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
I think I do. I think it's like managing expectations.
Yeah.
So like, if you feel like you can't, it's that bottom one. If you feel like you can't text, it's making sure the other person knows that it's not because you don't want to, it's because you're not physically able to at the minute. So by you not replying, they don't think it's you trying to ghost them. It's like the reverse of the situation before. And you know, I do that with a lot of my chronically ill friends. Like some of my closest chronically ill friends, we don't text a lot, but when we do, we just kind of pick it up, and like none of us ever take offence that someone hasn't replied straight away, but perhaps they're still posting on social media, because we get it. So I think it's just about managing expectations. And again, I know it can be difficult for a non-disabled person to understand that texting takes energy. I guess, is it as well? I find it so hard to keep up with friends even by text. Is it like just keeping up in general, like the general like social energy that it takes to keep up? It is tiring. Saying to your friend like, I really want to keep in touch with you. I think I might have done that to people, you know. I'm just trying to remember again when I was a lot worse. Are you okay?
That's a neat. What did you say? Like, I don't have the social energy to do this right now.
I think I've just said words to the effect of like, I'm so sorry I've not replied for a while. I can't always text you as much as I would like to, but I'm thinking about you. I hope you're okay, and talk soon.
I think that's a really good answer to that dilemma.
Oh, cool.
You're so limited sometimes in the solutions to these problems.
This is the thing, there is no single golden solution for most questions people have about being a young adult with a chronic illness. There's no ideal solution, so all you can do is make the best decision based on what you have, based on what you know at that time.
And do what you feel comfortable with as well. You know, if you have a gut feeling telling you like,
yes,
not to do something, then
Yes.
You trust that weird little gut feeling, I think.
Weird little gut feeling.
Weird little gut feeling.
Weird little.
You know, like just in the conversations that you might start to have with non-disabled friends, if you don't feel like this person's going to be accepting, if you don't feel like this person is going to listen to you in the way that like you need to be listened to at that moment, it might hurt you more.
I thought this was a really good one. I'm really interested to hear your perception on this.
Ooh.
So, how to start conversations about my disability or disability rights in general with non-disabled friends.
I wanted Pippa to start a campaign.
Oh,
right.
This is genius.
This
I'm not
is
doing
genius.
it, so if
So,
anyone wants it, feel free.
We want like some sort of like sticker or sign saying you tried, and you stick this sticker / sign saying you tried on accessible entryways that are just not accessible.
Yeah. Like, well done, you tried, but you got it
like
badly
those
wrong.
horrible I'm sure people will have seen them, those like horrible yellow ramps that they have in city centres. There's loads in York right now that you tried. You failed. Janice doesn't really go up them.
Janice is my power chair.
Oh yeah, sorry, not like the pack horse that we load Pippa onto.
Although I'm not the friend Janice.
To be fair,
we do load that thing up.
Pack horse might be actually better than...
I should have called the chair Buckaroo, because that's kind of what we end up doing sometimes.
But in terms, because you do a lot of work regarding like accessible employment. What's it called?
I can't help you. I need more.
Adjustments, reasonable adjustments,
yes.
and everything like that. We don't actually talk about that much.
No.
To say how much of a big part of your life
Yeah.
that is.
It's making me wonder, what do we talk about?
I don't know what we talk about.
It's weird. What were we talking about earlier? Oh, that's not suitable for sharing in the video. No.
It doesn't always have to be done in a really serious way.
No, not like sit down and like...
Yeah, I think the more serious you make it, the worse it'll be. I hate conversations which start with,
we need to talk.
Or can I talk to you about something? For us, which might be completely different for everybody, but I think the easiest way to do it is to just drop it into normal conversation.
Yes. Again, in York's having a lot of issues at the minute.
Yeah.
And one of the things they've done is ban blue badge holders from parking in the foot streets in the city centre, which effectively means that a lot of disabled people can't access the city centre anymore. Apparently that was an okay thing to do in 2022.
Flawless thinking there.
But there's some great action going on, and one of the peaceful protests was they got lots of people to fill out postcards about why this isn't okay, and then they presented them to the council. I don't think I asked you to do a postcard. I think you just offered, but then how were you, did I tell you about that?
Yes, I think you told me about the scheme because, well, this is the problem. I grumble about the lack of accessibility in York quite a lot. So I think you told me because it's something that I'm aware of. If you wanted to start that conversation, just saying, have you heard of this that's going on? If there's like a peaceful protest or a research study, that's, you know, like if you have sort of not a physical thing, but something like a thing to discuss, it's often easier than going straight in with the disability rights need to change, whereas saying like, oh, there's this research study that I've seen, you know, that's looking into, maybe not research study for disability rights, but you know, this campaign that's going on, this is what they're doing. Like, it sounds really cool.
Sometimes like going in a more gentle way is actually the way to get people on your side, which I know not everyone will agree with, and sometimes there is no choice but to be a bit more assertive about it. But in my experience, like inviting people and warmly welcoming them into that conversation is a lot more effective. This is a slightly different take on the question, but how about if a disabled friend wanted to call out their non-disabled friend for something they were doing that was ableist or discriminatory?
Discriminatory.
Yes.
See, I would want you to call me out.
Okay. Don't think I ever have.
You've corrected me on my language sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And was that... Well, I'm guessing that was okay because we're still here. No, well, this is the thing. It wasn't a bad word. It's not a slur, so to speak, but it's a word that I only recently learned is hurtful to others. So I've only just become aware of it, and I told you just after that. Yeah,
I try and not use words that are now known to be insulting, so I don't mind when Pippa kind of pulls me up on that. Yeah. But she does it in a nice way.
I can't remember how I did it.
No, actually, I don't think you did do it in a nice way, actually. I think I called you a mm-mm.
Yeah,
and then you said, hey, can't say that.
I think you were probably insulting me. We're probably insulting each other.
I was.
People must think we're so horrible to each other, which we are, to be fair.
Yeah. I think you're more than within your rights to pull up a non-disabled friend if they say something.
Yeah.
But do it in a way that's not, you can't say that, you're doing it wrong. Like, maybe you just say, did you know that that's actually quite insulting?
Yeah.
You know, something like that, because...
Hedge it a little bit, hedge around it a little bit.
Yeah, because unless people are educated, they'll just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And then you don't want to be feeling uncomfortable if someone says that a word or a phrase or does an action around you repeatedly.
Also, in my experience, and again, it depends on whether or not you feel comfortable doing it, if you can explain the reasons why that word or phrase isn't, it's more likely to stick in people's minds. Like, I've done a lot of inclusive language training, and once people understand the why behind it, they're much more likely to make that change. So I feel like it's almost a similar thing with disability rights conversations. Excuse me.
Like, if you've got something like sort of more solid to like chew over, that can often help with initiating those conversations.
Definitely.
And also examples. People always attach to examples, don't they?
That's it. I mean, I'm thinking about my other friends, my other non-disabled friends, and there are so many things where they've said to me, and this is quite nice to hear actually, although I wish it wasn't the case. Like, they've said, I would never have realised this was an issue until until we talked about it, or I saw you talking about it online, and now I can't not see it. So sometimes you're making more of a difference just by sharing those experiences. You might be doing more than you think you are. Which is good.
Listen, you but you inform one person why X, Y, and Z might be a bit insulting. They can maybe pass that knowledge on, you know. Exactly.
It blossoms.
Yes.
Blossoms into a little...
Like a nettle.
Oh. Is there... Okay, so if you could give one piece of advice to a non-disabled person who wants to be supportive and have a good friendship with a chronically ill person in particular. With a disabled. So did you hear earlier when we were in Breakfast Place?
Yeah.
Did you hear someone say, watch your back, there's a wheelchair there? That's a pet peeve of mine. I hate it when people say there's a wheelchair coming through. It's like... It's
awful, isn't it?
Even just saying wheelchair user is a little bit less dehumanising.
You know what? Drinking game. Every time I say communicate...
I thought you were going to say drinking games was your answer. I was like, it's probably not the most inclusive.
Drinking games. Every time I say communicate, sip your tea. I think one of the most important things for our friendship is like, I know what things that will make Pippa feel worse.
Yes.
In a purely physical sense.
Yes.
So we don't do that.
No.
I think the knowledge that I'm not doing anything that's going to make Pippa feel worse.
Yes.
Number one.
Yeah.
Because we've had that conversation about like, you know, this is triggering for me, this hurts my head, blah blah blah. The age-old can I do anything for you question.
Yeah. Although, do you ever resent when I say yes?
Kind of.
Like earlier, when I asked you to bring my battery up.
I did.
That's the worst. That's not a reflection on her. That is the worst task in the world.
I know, when she asked me to do that, I do accept. It's awful, and I don't want you doing it, but it's heavy, and every time you ask me, I do kind of go... Oh.
It's horrible. Again, I talk more about that in my mobility aids video, so we won't go into that, but that's like heavy. One of the nicest things someone could do for me, so it's appreciated, but also I resent having to ask you for it, because it's not a good task.
A big thing for me is like not assuming that you want me to do things, because I'm very conscious that I don't want to seem like I'm patronising you. You know, it's important to retain independence as well.
Yeah.
When you're maybe starting with a chronic illness, and, you know, you don't want someone like thinking that you're completely unable to do anything now. Yeah. Because that's not true.
And the other big thing with asking is that every chronically ill person is different. I never want somebody to look at me and think that I represent every person with a chronic illness, because that is categorically not true, especially these days. Yeah. So asking is, even if you know one chronically ill person, don't assume that what works for them is going to work for another person.
Yeah, this might not work for you at all.
Do you have any other chronically ill people in your life?
No.
Interesting. I've got a few.
Yeah, just a few. So don't be afraid as well to ask that person like about their disability.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might not be ready. Yeah. If it's a new diagnosis, to talk about it, which is more than fair, but ask that person about how they're feeling, what they can do, how they feel about their disability. Yeah. If you've got that far in your friendship. And
I was going to say in the right environment.
Yeah, not like, you know, you've been friends for a couple of months and it's like, so tell me about your depression.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so someone used a phrase the other day that I thought was really interesting, because I'd never thought of it. And they said, is it a deep friendship or a surface level friendship?
That's interesting.
And if it's a deep friendship where you actually have like a bond and like
Yeah.
Like, we're, like, in a long-term relationship of sorts, like, basically.
I think if you think of a friendship like you would a relationship, I always think that works better.
Yeah.
In that you need to put work in.
Yeah, both people put effort in.
You know, you put effort in, you try and understand what that person's going through, because if someone's like recently diagnosed, let's say, this is a massive change they're going through in their life. So trying to support them, be there for them in what they need at that point, I think is, you know, is very important. I can't see.
So that's like a deep friendship, and if you have that, then absolutely don't be afraid to ask people what they're experiencing, because if it's like me, I bet nobody's ever asked them before. If it's more of a surface level friendship, I'd probably wait until you're in the right context and the right situation.
Yeah. Maybe surface level friendship is a bit more like, do you need me to do anything for you?
Yes. So
would you like me to do anything
how
for you?
can I help so that we can do this fun thing, which are still really valuable friendships to have, and I have a lot of those as well. I have a few of them. A lot is a bit of an exaggeration. Is there anything you want to ask me? That's kind of putting you on the spot. Why?
Just why?
I don't know why. What would Lionel say? I said, what would Lionel say? And my iPad said, interesting question. What? I didn't even know this had Siri.
God, this is amazing.
How much of that did you hear?
Okay, so maybe like earlier in friendship, what was I doing that was not helpful?
It was such a long time ago. It was like another lifetime ago. And anyone who's lived with chronic illness for a significant number of years and had different stages like I have, it's honestly like another lifetime. The only example I can think of is from literally right from the beginning when we were still at school, and I wasn't even diagnosed, and I don't know why this has stuck in my head. But, and again, I'm gonna have to be really vague with how I talk about this, but we used to be at a sixth form, and at lunchtime you could go up, there was a shop nearby and you were allowed to go to the shop, and so everyone said, do you want to walk up to with me?
The shop?
Yeah. And this was so early on, but I remember once I said to you, I can't, I'm too tired, and you were like, no, come on, I need you to come with me.
Yeah.
But that, again, you had very limited knowledge, because I had very limited knowledge, and I wasn't assertive at that time. Not that I'm very assertive now, it's something I need to work on.
You know, if someone says, I'm having like a really symptom heavy day, I don't really feel like I can do this, not pushing.
Yeah, not saying, oh, can't you just do this?
Yeah. Not saying, you know, just like in general, this isn't to do with this, not saying at least. Any sentence that starts with at least, I think, should be avoided.
100%.
People shouldn't have to explain themselves as to why they need time to themselves, I think.
If someone with a chronic illness tells you something, take it at face value. Don't think, do they actually mean this, or should I take it seriously? Because if they've told you, the chances are it's probably taken guts to tell you. So take it at face value and don't question it. I think that's quite a nice note to end on, actually, because I've just looked at how long we've been filming this and I can't believe it. Well, thank you for sharing your noggin thoughts with the nice, lovely people.
You are welcome. I hope some of them made sense. This be like just not helpful.
The views by one person.
We just like rambled on.
I don't know whether I'll leave this in, but if you have anything else in mind that you think would be helpful to have a non-disabled person's perspective on, I'll see if I can bribe her to do it again sometime. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for being here.
It's okay.
I'm gonna go and rest, and then we're gonna go out for tapas.
And put more sunscreen on, I think.
Oh my god, I know. What's going on? Thank you very much for watching. You can subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next time.